I wonder if we might start, we will deal with Windrush in just a second, but I wonder if we might start with the local elections. Yeah. Judging from what I've read, I imagine you've got the bunting out the attic, the champagne on ice.
No, look, I never predict local elections. You just can't. They're not like a general election or anything like that. Very many local factors come into play. So from what we've seen, we've had a fantastic campaign, large numbers of people with all our membership knocking on doors, and the feedback is pretty good, but you can never tell until the day itself. And I'm saying to people, you know, just be very careful about any predictions, because we've been here before, and you know, you get all the hype and then people can get let down. I think we'll have a good result, but we'll see on the day. As I say, too many local factors come into play to make an accurate prediction at this stage.
A good result. Do I detect perhaps a touch of expectation management entering the narrative now, Mr McDonnell?
No, I've got a track record of trying to predict general elections, and I'm not bad on those, but on local government I've got an abysmal track record of predictions. So don't rely upon me. I think we'll have a good night, because that's the feedback I'm getting from all the work on the ground, and I've been touring around the country in the campaigns. But local elections are just really unpredictable, and remember, we were at an all-time high in our local government election results only 4 years ago on these seats, so it's very difficult to push the bar even higher. But we'll see on the night. We'll see. I think we'll have a good night, but as I say, it's difficult to predict.
You know, I'm going to keep trying to draw you into specifics. I mean, others have, of course, predicted great things for Labour, particularly in and around London. I mean, I'm wondering whether you think that the accusations of, the allegations of anti-Semitism might have an effect at local elections, particularly in places like Barnet, where it strikes me that very well might be the case.
You can't tell on these things. I've been in Barnet, and I've been canvassing in Barnet, and I'm back there next week. And the response on the doorstep seems pretty good. I spoke to a group of young people at one of the local sixth form colleges there, and the question did come up. Do you know, it was a really good debate. It was a really healthy debate about how we address anti-Semitism, not just in the party, but also in the community. And I think on this issue, I think as a community, you know, we might come out strengthened on this, because it's highlighted the seriousness of anti-Semitism, and it's focused all our minds now about how we eradicate it, both in the Labour Party, but what came across in the discussions I had in Barnet, and in our society as well. I don't think we should tolerate living in a society where Jewish cemeteries are attacked and daubed with swastikas, and you have to have security on Jewish schools. That's unacceptable. So if any good is going to come out of this now, certainly it's about cleaning up the act within the Labour Party, but also, I think, more widely than that, tackling it within society as a whole.
Indeed, and actually, Tim, to your credit, Mr McDonnell, you identified anti-Semitism as an issue within Labour ranks pretty early on. Mr Corbyn has caught up with you. I do wonder whether or not you're perhaps slightly annoyed by the fact that there are others within the PLP and the wider party who don't seem to have got the message.
Look, let me just correct you on that. Jeremy Corbyn hasn't caught up with me. We've been working hand in hand. We're exactly on the same page and always have been on this issue. Jeremy Corbyn is one of the most fundamental anti-racist campaigners, devoting his life to it, including tackling anti-Semitism.
But when did he identify it as a problem within the Labour Party? It was only in the past few days.
No, that's not true. He's consistently argued there is an issue here to be addressed, and when commissioning the Chakrabarti report, sought action to address it. The fact now that he's saying, look, we've got to be more thorough on all of this. The new General Secretary has been appointed. She's been told that's your #1 priority by Jeremy, and that's exactly what she's doing. But let's get the message clear to every Labour Party member and every member of our community. We will not tolerate anti-Semitism in any political party, right or left, or in our society, and we will root it out, and that's what we're doing.
Well, one person I would imagine that you have the ear of is Len McCluskey. I mean, he wrote in the New Statesman this week that there are Corbyn-hater MPs using anti-Semitism to smear the leader. I mean, is that your assessment?
No, and Jeremy said that's not his assessment either. But one element of Len McCluskey's article was an acknowledgement that there is an issue of anti-Semitism, no matter how small the assessment of it is, and it has to be rooted out. So Len accepted there was an issue here to be addressed and actually gave his weight, threw his weight behind addressing it. And, you know, that's what we'll do.
I mean, will you maybe then be having a word with, Chris Williamson, your colleague in the PLP, who's fundraising for Mark Wadsworth at the moment, to appeal against his expulsion from the party? I mean, Mr Williamson called it absurd. Again, is that your assessment?
No, I've never commented on individual cases, particularly if there's legal action or processes going on, because I don't want to jeopardise the due process on each of these cases. And that's what I've said to others as well. Let due process take place. Make sure there's natural justice. Make sure their cases are heard properly. And then if people are found guilty of it, there's a whole range of measures that have to be put in place. In some instances, it is about re-education, making sure people understand what the issue is. In other cases, it is saying your behaviour is unacceptable, you're out of this party. But, we've got to have I'm hoping we have a wider debate about anti-Semitism across the whole community now, because it isn't just about cleaning up the act within the Labour Party. As I said, I'm shocked at the levels of anti-Semitism that there is within a wider society. And I'm hoping, well, on a cross-party basis, on a cross-community basis, we can address this issue thoroughly now.
But why then did Jeremy Corbyn not take any of the suggestions from the Board of Deputies, the Jewish Leadership Council? I mean, on one specific issue, why shouldn't it be the case that MPs, Labour MPs, are told you will not share a platform with someone who has been suspended from the party for allegations of anti-Semitism?
It's already within the rules that you do not share a platform with people who have been expelled. Suspension is a slightly different matter, and that's one of the issues we've got to discuss within the party. When he met with the Board of Deputies and the Jewish Leadership Council, there was a whole list of issues that they raised and processes that they wanted the Labour Party to enact. There was a discussion about how that can be done. In some instances, you have to change the constitution. It takes a while to do that. In other instances, like data protection in particular, this was presented to us last week in the discussion that Jeremy had, this agenda. So he's working through, and they're going to meet again in July. I think the Board of Deputies and the Jewish Leadership Council by July will see that, for example, one of the demands that they had, quite rightfully, is processing the backlog of cases that we've got. I think they'll be pleased with the progress that we have on that by July. On the other matters where there's some legal advice that needs to be taken, particularly around data protection, this issue about a separate ombudsman to be looking at these issues, again, we can report back and work through these issues together. I know they weren't I know they're a bit dispirited by that meeting, but we have to ensure the processes we put in place are based upon sound legal advice and that are not challengeable and then are effective as well. Now, I think by July, the next meeting, and we're going to be meeting them on a regular basis now, so we work together. OK, Mr McDonnell. Clearly, it has been a very bad week for Amber Rudd. Why should she resign if it was an honest mistake when she inadvertently misled the House? I mean, do you have a problem with there being targets for the removal of illegal immigrants from the United Kingdom? Look, I stand by what Theresa May said over a number of years ago when she was criticising Labour Home Office ministers. And she basically said, if you make decisions, you as a minister, you're responsible for your department. If something goes wrong, you should go. Now, Theresa May was right then. I think we believe we're right now. Amber Rudd either misled Parliament or was too incompetent to manage her own department. On either grounds, she should go. And it's not me saying this. I'm abiding by the strictures that Theresa May herself set out
but to be clear, on
over
the
a number of years ago when she was in opposition.
But to be clear, on the second part of my question, you personally have no problem with there being targets for the removal of illegal immigrants?
Look, I think what happened is that the government, the Conservative government, set ludicrous targets, were never going to be met, and as a result of that created what they call the hostile environment. And that hostile environment led to human suffering. That is unacceptable. What we've always said, these targets never work. What you do is you make sure you
Diane
have
Abbott
a
said yesterday that the Labour Party and government would have targets.
Yes, you have a reasonable and fair system which arrives at reaching a reasonable level of migration, benefiting the economy and jobs overall. That's exactly what you do. And you plan it in that way. You do not set ludicrously low targets in the way the Conservatives did, which are unmeetable.